You ready?
Yeah.
You ready? All right, hold on. Here we go.
What's going on, everyone? This is the My Aggie Nation Podcast. I'm Travis Brown with The Eagle, MyAggieNation.com, alongside the normal crew, Alex Miller of The Eagle. Alex, what's going on?
Guys,
Oh, no.
He's sort of. I kind of.
am I frozen?
No, not anymore.
No.
No.
Am I frozen? Can you hear me?
You were like Olaf, and now you're alive again. You're a real boy.
Well, let's try to make this happen. Zach Taylor is the other guy on this. Zach, what's going on?
Going good, man. How are you?
You know, trying to let it go and not be frozen over here.
Oh, summer. I don't even know the song. I just know that he sings about summer. So, have you never seen Frozen?
That's kind of a deep cut, though.
Oh, that's really delving deep into the movie. Yes.
Yeah, it is kind of a deep cut. I forgot about that. Yeah. Anyway, well, you know, we are here with a podcast about other things in Disney movies, and A&M, Texas A&M soccer team, is off in the NCAA tournament bubble in North Carolina. They've already made it to the Elite Eight by beating who was it? The first Florida and Oklahoma State. I got to talk with Lauren Geczik, forward for the team, about a little bit of bubble life, a little bit about these games and their 8 game against North Carolina this weekend. So here is that interview. I am here with Lauren Geczik of the Aggie soccer team. They just got off a big win against Oklahoma State in the Sweet 16 round of the NCAA tournament. She's coming to us here live. Well, not really live because it's a podcast, but live from the bubble in North Carolina. Let's start off with that. What has bubble life been like for y'all?
It hasn't been too bad so far. I'm in the middle of finals right now, so I've just been studying. So I think I would be doing the same thing, whether we were inside a bubble or outside of it. But it's been pretty good so far. The hotels have been nice, and it's just been good to be with our team.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of times teams say that road trips and going on the road is what really builds team chemistry. I can only imagine it's that times 1,000 being bubbled together for the whole NCAA tournament.
Yes, definitely. We see each other all the time, but we're a team and we love each other and we're one big family. So it works out nicely for us. You're
not sick of each other yet?
Not yet. Maybe after we win the Natty, we will be, but not quite yet.
There you go. Well, let's go back to this past Wednesday and the game against Oklahoma State, a team that A&M's soccer program has had a long-standing rivalry tradition with, that A&M's usually been on the top of. Tell me a little bit about that game, because I'm sure it was exciting and great, but maybe also a little bit frustrating with that counterattacking play that they had, where y'all had 36 shots, only managed 3 goals, then won it in PKs. What was that game like to play in?
Right. It was a total roller coaster from start to finish. We came out super strong, and they unfortunately scored against the run of play pretty early on, but we knew the game was not going to be over after that, and we immediately bounced back, which says a lot about our team. And then in the second half, it was back and forth once again. But then when we went to the PKs, we had complete trust in one another, and we knew we were going to pull out the win. Yeah. What is it like being on the sidelines for PKs and participating in PKs? I'm it's got to be one of the most nerve-wracking things you can do in sports. Right. No, the pressure is extremely high, but we have been practicing them all throughout practice these past couple weeks. And Jordan is our PK goalkeeper, and I had complete faith in her that we were going to win with her in goal. Mm-hmm. When you see a shot go right down the middle, like Lainey did there at the end, I mean, I know the keeper was diving, but right down the middle, does that make your heart stop a little bit? Because it's right down the middle. It was right down the middle, but since that was the final one, once it went in, we all just went crazy. But I think Lainey saw her dive a little bit, so she knew the middle was the safe bet. But it was just like complete joy when that went in. Yeah. What was the bus ride back like? What was the hotel like? I'm sure y'all at least gave yourself a half a day to celebrate that win. Yes, I mean, to be in the Elite Eight, our team goal is just to win. So this was a huge step for us. We were all super pumped about it, but hey, it's on to the next one. Like, we're not done yet. We're ready to play UNC.
Sure. So on the counterbalance, you have an Oklahoma State program that when A&M has played them, A&M holds the big advantage. North Carolina is the other way around. Where North Carolina, a lot of games, but they have, I think A&M's only won 3 games against North Carolina in the history of the series. With that history, does that bring a little added something to this game for y'all, a little added motivation to be one of the few teams that have been able to accomplish that?
Right. I mean, when you're going against a team like UNC, you know they have that dynasty and they have so much to their name. But with this year, our attitude, especially in this COVID time, it's like anyone can win. And we're not going in scared or anything like that. We're coming in. We want to beat the best teams in order to win the national championship. So this is the perfect test for us.
Mm-hmm. For those people who might not be women's soccer fans, you look at teams like Texas A&M, like North Carolina, like Penn State, and what they've been able to do over the years. Growing up, when you were a club soccer player and whatnot, when you heard North Carolina, what kind of did that bring up as far as what that program was and what the kind of players that they attracted?
Right. I mean, growing up, you always heard that UNC was the soccer school because they had like that string of years where they won the national championship every single year. But now as different programs have grown, I mean, it's anyone's game. So we're not going into the game scared. We're ready to play.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, A&M is right up there too, as far as consecutive streaks getting into the NCAA tournament and the success that they've been able to have. I don't know if y'all have been able to do much kind of film study or scouting report, but what are you expecting from the game?
I mean, North Carolina is always good. We know they're dangerous up top and they always are able to create scoring opportunities. So just keeping their key players on lock. And I think we'll be able to have offensive opportunities like Washington did and just being able to put those away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, strong defense kept them at bay with what Washington was able to do up until about halfway through the second half. Do you see this probably as a little bit more of one of those type 1-0 type of games instead of one of these 3-3, 4-3 kind of penalty kicks like y'all just had?
I mean, that's the thing about soccer. Anything can happen. So you can think it's going to go one way, but then it goes a completely different way. So we're just going to go, we're going to prepare, and we're just going to go into it with our best foot forward and see what happens.
What's the atmosphere been like? Because I know, of course, it's bubbled. Is there some fans in there? Because, of course, North Carolina is somewhat of the not hometown, but home state team. Will you expect there to be a little bit more fans, a little bit more atmosphere than normal, or what's it kind of been like so far?
I believe they're allowing 50% capacity at the games. But we have parents coming in, like we'll have our A&M fan base there. I'm sure it might be a little toward North Carolina, but we love to play in front of people no matter who it is. So we're excited to have a little bit more atmosphere at this game compared to our past two.
Yeah. And what's the complex been like and the way y'all been able to practice and train? Because we get to see just a little narrow piece of it while we're watching these games. What's the bubble practice and pitch?
Right. So we've been training mostly at Wake Med, not on the game fields, but on some practice fields. So we're around the same area, which is pretty nice. And then we play on also nice fields. So it's been a good setup.
Yeah. And so then finally, I mean, it's an easy kind of dumb question, but what would it mean for you and for this team to, before I get to that question, I will say young team, y'all have a pretty young team especially to be able to go this far. Do you feel like with the talent and players that y'all have, your window to make a college cup or even make it to the finals or move on past there, do you think that you're inside that window, or do you think that y'all have kind of moved the schedule up a little bit and it's a little bit wider window to have a lot of success?
Right. Everyone talks about how such a young team we are, but we like to say that even though we're young, we have experience. Like back in the fall, we had a loss to Arkansas. And after that, we had to win every single game in order to win the SEC regular season championship. And our team did that. And so we have experience in winning when we need to. And then this past season, we needed to beat TCU in order to become a seed in the tournament. And we did that. So our team is able to rise to the occasion because we have that experience that we've had, even though we're a young team.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then I'll go back to my easy question. What would it mean for this team, for you, for the program to make it to that Final Four?
It would mean so much to this program, especially in the year like this. We have the school in the back of our minds, and we've just been so laser focused on it. So it would just be such an amazing feeling and everything that we work toward.
Definitely. Well, let's end with this. Let's get away from the pitch. What is of the stories that you can tell, what is the funniest or craziest or best memory that y'all have had off the field in the bubble that you can share?
Our team is just so goofy all around, so I can't think of one particular moment, but we're always having fun with each other and making jokes and things like that. So it's hard for me to pinpoint one specific moment, but we're always having fun.
We'll go with this. Who's the biggest class clown? Who's the team jokester?
Oh, definitely Chantel Hutton, one of our goalies. She is hilarious, and she's always making people laugh, cracking jokes, and she's just hilarious. So definitely Shan.
There you go. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck to y'all this weekend.
Yeah, she's also hosting a Zumba session for us later.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Big thanks to Lauren Geczik coming on, talking about Texas A&M soccer's big Elite Eight showdown with second-ranked North Carolina this Sunday at noon in Cary, North Carolina. So should be a good showdown for the Ags, looking to make it all the way to the Final Four. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll keep it rolling. Again, you're listening to the My Aggie Nation Podcast.
Welcome back. You're listening to the My Aggie Nation Podcast. I'm Alex Miller from the Eagle, joined by my fellow Eagler, Travis L. Brown. And
glad to see you can count.
Huh?
I'm glad to see you can count with your fingers.
I can count? Yeah.
It was under question a little bit.
Was it?
I don't know if he's going to do the Greg Popovich where he sits there and is kind of befuddled whenever he's...
Well, what's going on, guys?
Nothing much, man.
Living the dream. This is the first 2-day podcast recording I think we've ever done because of internet issues at the Eagle. So we started, if you heard the first segment, that was yesterday, and this is today. And that is just something interesting.
And so much has happened in that time.
I mean, so much has happened.
I went to Burger Mojo and got queso fries between now and then.
But you do that every day.
Yeah, I don't think that counts.
What's your go-to, besides the queso fries, what is your go-to Burger Mojo order?
Oh, it's got to be the mother load, without a question. Because it's a burger, it's a cheeseburger with a fried egg, 2 pieces of sausage, jalapeno kettle chips, and their awesome sauce, which is kind of like a Chipotle mayo. Yeah, it's incredible. And it's only like $7. So
unless you're going to say like 700,000 calories. I thought that's what he was going to say. See, he's still young. He doesn't think in calories. He only thinks in price.
I like the Bulls on Parade with it's like the blackened cheeseburger.
Sounds about right.
It's pretty good.
I like the spicy chicken sandwich. I forgot what is it? The spicy rooster or whatever they call it. I like that. I mean, I like Burger Mojo, especially since they put that one down in College Station. I go there all the time, or the one that's on Holloman.
Yeah, Burger Mojo, definitely a place you should check out. Well, let's get back into it. Let's start with a little Aggie soccer. A&M coming off the thrilling Sweet 16 win over Oklahoma State in PKs. Travis, we'll start with you. Was that about as thrilling a soccer match as you're going to see?
It was pretty darn good. I know Coach Gary afterwards said that it was an all-timer as far as NCAA tournament games go, and I think you'd have to agree. I think that probably if the players or the coaching staff would have had it their way, it wouldn't have necessarily been so epic. Oklahoma State ran a counterattacking style of play where they kind of sit back with a lot of players behind the ball on defense and wait for their opponents to make a mistake, and then they jump on it and are flying down the field. And it's kind of like if you're not a big soccer person but you like basketball, it's kind of like a really stout defensive team that plays hard defense and tries to get a lot of transition buckets. And that's exactly what Oklahoma State did. I mean, they had 3 shots on goal their first 3 shots on goal were goals. And those all 3 of those came in transition on the counterattack, per se. A&M had 36 shots on net. 16 of those were on frame. So the 36 shots, 16 were on frame. So I think they'll want to convert a few more of those as they're going into North Carolina this weekend.
Yeah, G was talking about that after the match and just saying how his young squad kept kicking the ball. They just kept kicking at that net, and so many shots on goal. But yeah, it's amazing too when you think of how young this team is. And I know that G brought that up after the match as well. You know, you had a couple of players that went to the professional league last fall. So the way that the NCAA did the soccer schedule as well as the volleyball schedule this year, they actually split it up, with half occurring in the fall, then the other half now in the spring, instead of just all in the fall. And so you've got really young players without 2 of your best ones that you had in 2020, in the fall of 2020, and still able to get it done. And all that energy and that passion really showed up and able to get that win in PKs. And you had a freshman too, Lainey Carroll. I mean, she's the one that kicked the game winner. So you've got some young players that are really stepping up for A&M.
Yeah, well, 8 of 11 starters are freshmen or sophomores on the team. So it is a young squad that's heading into a really tough test this weekend.
Yeah, I was gonna move into that one. You know, A&M now going to play number 2 North Carolina in the Elite 8 on Sunday. A&M looking for their second ever College Cup appearance. Is that correct?
Yes. So interestingly enough, this is what I kind of wrote about for the preview. Last time that they did that was 2014, and that was 2015. Sorry, that was Shea Groom's senior year. That was a squad that a very young A&M squad took on North Carolina in a early season tournament when North Carolina was number 1, when they were all freshmen, and beat North Carolina. One of the 3 times they beat North Carolina in like 19 tries as a program. And they went on 4 years later to make the first ever College Cup. So A&M's really young team this year has a chance to kind of follow in those footsteps of a really good era of A&M women's soccer, and has that chance to not only beat North Carolina as a young squad, but then go ahead and move on to the College Cup really early. I asked G, is this a case where this is the lot that, you know, they saw that this was the window that this squad could start doing some really good things, or are they overachieving early? And he said, I mean, they're going to have to see after the way that the season kind of wraps up, but it is going to be definitely an interesting test, and it could be a really big launching pad for the next 4 years of A&M soccer. If they can win this game again, they've only beaten North Carolina 3 times in the history, and they've met up a lot of times. North Carolina has knocked them out of the NCAA tournament 4 times, and 3 of those were in the Elite 8. So will be a very tough test for A&M soccer.
And I know with the teams being in a bubble, and you might could attest to this, you guys, I don't know how many fans are allowed in the stands or not, but the fact that they're playing in North Carolina, I mean, I know A&M has been there. It's not like they just traveled in. They've gotten a chance to kind of acclimate themselves to be in North Carolina and getting ready for these matches. But I mean, it's still going to be pretty much a home game for UNC, right?
Yeah, I talked to, of course, we talked to Lauren Geczik earlier, and she was talking about how it seems to be about 50% capacity, but a lot of that is just kind of been the traveling party of parents for the team. So she said A&M has a pretty good parents traveling party that's up there, that's cheering on the Aggies, but they expect that there'll probably be a few more UNC fans around, since it's just kind of down the road in Raleigh, from Chapel Hill, where North Carolina is. So yeah, but it's still a few hours away, and you never know if people are going to make that trip for a bubbled tournament. They'll have to, it's crazy, and I didn't know this. And and now I'm going to have to actually pull up the stat. I knew North Carolina was good, but I didn't necessarily know how much of a dynasty. And when you talk to G, and he talks about the head coach over there at North Carolina who's been there forever. Get this. There's been 38 NCAA women's soccer championships. North Carolina has won 21 of those.
Wow.
And so when you talk to G about Anson Dorrance, their head coach, and who's been there since 1982, and what he's meant to the sport, he said it could probably be between him and G. Gary he and Pat Henry, the A&M track coach, for the best college coach of all time, any sport. With what he's able, 21 national championships in 38 tournaments. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that is a remarkable stat. You mentioned that. We know that North Carolina has the home field advantage. So, Travis, what do you think it's going to take for A&M to be able to pull an upset on Sunday?
They're going to have to not make mistakes, and they're going to have to play really good defense. It's going to be interesting because we'll have to see how much they're able to play their own style. They like to attack. They like to push forward, even push some kind of fullbacks down the field a little bit and attack, evidence in what they were able to do against Oklahoma State. But if you attack too much, you leave yourself susceptible to you're having, more kind of odd man rushes and getting caught way too far down the field. So they're going to have a balanced game. And if they're going to attack that much, the margin for error, the margin for mistakes, bad passes, bad touches, that goes down a lot. It's interesting. There is A&M, of course, lost their two best players to the professional ranks in Jimena Lopez and Addie McCain. UNC actually lost 5 players to the draft from the fall segment to the spring segment, but they're just so deep that they replace. And it's the other thing that you'll see if you watch this game. UNC is so deep that most college coaches, the substitution rules are different than the professional game or the international game where you only get 3 subs. You can sub a little bit more freely in the college game. But most college coaches will use those subs more akin to a normal professional soccer match where there's one in, one out here to kind of get some fresh legs on the field in certain spots. UNC is so deep, they actually do like full line changes. And they have like a first squad and a second squad. And it was actually the second squad that scored the 1 goal against Washington their last game to advance. And so that's something you'll see is just the immense depth that they have. A&M is going to have to run hard for all 8 minutes of the game and keep to their tactics, because there'll be times where A&M's first teamers, their starters, will be going against some really fresh legs and some really good fresh legs. So it's going to be full-on intensity, 90 minutes, few mistakes. And if you get opportunities, they've got to capitalize and got to be clinical with those opportunities in their attacking third.
For sure. Well, big game on the road for A&M soccer this Sunday. Back here in College Station, though, A&M baseball team, they're at home against Ole Miss. Painful weekend for the Aggies last week in Starkville. They got swept by the Bulldogs. They dropped a heartbreaker in 12 innings, lost another 1-run game on Saturday. Zach, what did you see from the Aggies last weekend? They were on the cusp of winning 2 big games on the road over a top 5 team. They just weren't able to finish the deal.
Yeah, that's been the story for a few series that they've had throughout this season. You can go back and say, well, they could have easily won the Tennessee series, if they had held on. They could have gotten another game against Arkansas, if only they had held on. I think you have to call it what it is. This Aggie baseball team's just not good. They're just not able to close things out. I mean, they have the makings. I mean, they can stick with anybody, I think, for 7 innings, but will they be able to stay there for the full 9? I just don't see it. I mean, they have some defensive mistakes. They bite themselves a lot with walks and free passes. And the pitching just has not been as good in the as it has in the past, which is really surprising because Rob Childress's teams are always able to throw out some really good players. But, without having last year to really develop for those younger guys, and then when you had top frontline guys like Asa Lacy leaving for the draft, they just weren't able to replenish. And so, they got a big win against UT Arlington. I know that that's a midweek series against a directional school. And you're thinking, well, that's not a big deal against UT Arlington. UTA is pretty good. And the fact that A&M was able to go into Arlington and get a victory, I think was big. But can they kind of carry that momentum into this series against Ole Miss and then wrapping things up against LSU? I really don't see it. I mean, Ole Miss is a really solid squad. I think A&M would be doing good if they win one of the games in this series.
Zach, I think you nailed it when you were talking about the free passes. That's been what has been the bugaboo for this team all season is walks and hit batters, because their offense, A&M's offense, most of the time has put up runs and put up enough runs to win a game, but it's been where what probably should have been maybe a solo home run that A&M's pitching staff gave up turned into a 3-run home run, and then they're really in a hole and can't dig themselves out even with some good offensive performances. If you, as of leading into this game, A&M is 12th in the SEC in walks. They are 91st in the nation in walks plus hits per inning, and they are, and only Kentucky has hit more batters than A&M at 63. Chandler Josewalk has 11 batters. Bryce Miller has hit 10 batters. Chris Webber has hit 8 batters. Through that stretch of 6-game losing streak, they hit 14 batters and walked 25 people. You just can't do that. And it wasn't really the case before SEC play. They weren't walking that many people. They weren't hitting that many batters. Leading into that Florida series, they had only hit 14 batters. They were 7th in walks, hits, innings pitched, just they weren't ranked nearly as low. So you ask them about it, because it's one thing to say, well, we're walking more batters because we're facing tougher competition and they have a better eye, and we're trying to nibble the corner just a little bit more, and it's not working. But hit batters is the one that's confusing me, because hit batter is a hit batter no matter the skill of the player. That's just you got away from you. And said a lot of times when they're trying to hit that inside corner, it can just get away from them a little bit, and then the next thing you know, that fastball's running right into the ribs. And I don't know how much I buy that. I think it's just pressing. I think that they have not been playing very well. They've been losing games. You don't know how much they are aware of the fact that Rob Childress's contract is up, and how many of them feel like they're playing for their coach's job. Just all these little factors that I think they're just pressing. And frankly, I think this is a decently talented baseball team. Like I've said in the past, I just think little errors there that make it to where they're vastly underachieving. I think if they had cut those walks and if they cut the hit batters in half and they cut the walks by a third, they've won a lot more ball games this year than they have, and they're probably back in contention to make the NCAA tournament. But I don't think that's going to happen now, and it solely really lands on walks and hit batters.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the pitching, because there's going to be a shakeup in the rotation potentially this weekend. There's a TBA on the Sunday starter. Travis, what do you think we can expect from A&M on the mound this weekend? And, is this a decision that came maybe a little too late to try and see what options you have elsewhere?
I think the decision to try to bolster the bullpen, because really the only person that they've had that's been somewhat consistent is Chandler Josewalk, but he's had to eat a lot of innings. I mean, he pitched 2.5 innings on Tuesday against UTA, and he's had to throw more midweek games than just about any A&M front of the bullpen guy in the last 5 years. So So I think he's eaten a lot of innings, and they're unsure about how stable his arm is going to be through the remainder of the season. So they put Miller back into the pen. I think he's going to be a safety valve to where if Dustin Signs gets in trouble early in the first 3 innings or so of the game, they'll probably go to Miller and leave Sunday to Detmer, maybe Jonathan Childress. We'll have to see. But with the way that they set this up, if Signs rolls through and has a good game, and then Chris Webber rolls through and has a good game, Bryce Miller will pitch on Sunday. And probably even if they get through Signs on Friday, they can go to Joe's Walk Saturday and leave Miller for Sunday. So it's probably all a matter of how long Dustin Signs can get through his outing Friday without too much damage. If they'll go to Miller from the pen or if they'll use him Sunday as a starter.
We've mentioned how making the NCAA tournament is just it's an absolute long shot for the Aggies right now, but making the SEC tournament, I mean, that's at stake too. A&M came into the week tied for 12th with Missouri and Auburn. Auburn lost last night to LSU, so I guess the Aggies and Missouri, they're half game ahead of Auburn in the standings. Missouri, they're hosting Tennessee this weekend. A&M playing Auburn next weekend, I believe, on the road. Zach, we'll wrap up our baseball talk with this. How crucial is it for A&M to find a way to take a game this weekend to keep those hopes alive for Hoover? And do you think the Aggies can find a way to finish in that top 12?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial. I mean, you're talking about now is when the rubber meets the road, even though I think I would argue that that should have happened a while back. But yeah, A&M is playing for its postseason life right now. If you're the Aggies, if you're Rob Childress, you're used to being in the postseason. So none of these guys want to go home early. They all want to at least go to Hoover and give their shot and make their shot. So yeah, it's imperative that they win some games. They need to get one. They would love to have 2. I mean, who wouldn't love to get a series, especially being at home this weekend against a really good Ole Miss team? Yeah, you mentioned Auburn. They've got a good shot there because they'll be battling towards the bottom half of the standings. And then you've got LSU again at home. So, I mean, if they're able to get a good series this weekend, that sets them up nicely for the next 2 weekends. So the next 2 weeks. So we'll see how that shakes out. But first, they got to get 1 or 2 wins against Mississippi State or Ole Miss, excuse me.
If they don't, the good thing about the way the schedule sets up is they do have Auburn next week in Auburn, a series that should be winnable, even though they've already lost to them once this year at the Round Rock Classic. But those games, again, because they're fighting for the same positioning, will be could be a 4 to 6 game swing and put them ahead. So if A&M really and truly, as far as the postseason goes, it's next weekend that's the most imperative, depending on how the other series shake up this weekend for A&M. But yeah, I think that the only way that they have a chance to make the NCAA tournament would be to make a deep run and win in Hoover, win the SEC tournament, and they gotta get there first. And I think that, I don't know if that happens this weekend, but it for sure needs to happen next weekend at Auburn.
Well, we'll wrap up the podcast with this. Last weekend was the NFL draft. 4 A&M players got selected. Let's just get your thoughts, and then maybe which A&M player you think which A&M player that got drafted you think could have the best shot at making it long-term in the league. Zach, we'll start with you.
I wasn't too surprised with how everything shook out. The fact that the last 3 guys that went, Dan Moore Jr., Buddy Johnson, and of course Bobby Brown III, that they all went in the 4th round, I think was a little surprising. The fact that, well, really all 3 went in that particular round. Who has the best shot at staying long term? I mean, I would almost, I'm going to go ahead and say Bobby Brown. I really am, because I think that his talent just lends itself to that. And I think that he is in a position in which he can really make a big impact on the defensive line. You know, I mean, he's going to be right there next to Aaron Donald, who better to learn from on a D line than that guy. So, you know, I think he has a legitimate shot. You know, I think the case could also be made for Kellen. Kellen Mond is coming into a great situation when you've got a veteran quarterback in Kirk Cousins. You don't know how much longer he'll be in Minnesota, so Kellen doesn't have to start right away. He can sit in the waiting in the wings, so to speak, and then wait for his time. And can he cash in on that or not? But I think the one that has the most upside, I would say, would be Bobby.
I think that Bobby might be the player that you see on the field first, but I think Kellen actually has a shot to maybe be a starter the soonest. Kirk Cousins has 2 years left on his contract in Minnesota. So if he can sit back and, do some good stuff in some cleanup time, garbage time, show some good stuff at practice, they might decide in 2 years that he's their guy of the future and move on from a more veteran quarterback at that time. So I think Kellen has the opportunity to get a shot to be a guy, probably anybody else in that group. I was a little surprised Buddy Johnson went that high. I know a lot of other people might disagree. I kind of thought that fourth guy was going to be Carson Green to go, but of course, the 4 Aggies drafted, they had 5 other guys. All of those other guys found a home through free agency. Ryan McCollum, Carson Green are going to the Texans. Jamon Osmond's going to the Eagles. Jared Hawker's going to the Seahawks. And who am I missing?
Anthony Hines.
Anthony Hines going to the hometown Cowboys.
Yeah.
There you have it.
We'll see if those guys stick. But, I was kind of surprised Buddy went that high, too. But good for him. He's worked really hard, and hopefully he has a long NFL career ahead of him.
For sure. I think we can all agree Buddy is a great guy to talk to, and we wish him the best. Well, I think that's all the time we got. I think we covered all of our bases. So thanks for tuning in, everyone, to another episode of the My Aggie Nation Podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow on Apple and Spotify. And we'll be back soon talking more A&M sports. For Travis Brown and Zach Taylor, I'm Alex Miller. Y'all have a great weekend.
Bye.
It seems like every day, everything just has a way to burst at the seams. But if we don't watch what we're doing, our hearts will get ruined by silly things. Good love ain't easy, girl, we know that's true. And if we wanna keep it, we gotta watch everything that we do, yeah. Don't wanna make sure, my baby, make sure you're sticking with me. Don't wanna make sure that we'll be all that we can be, all that we can be, all that we can be.